Live from Studio A in PressCorps World Headquarters, this is Zero Dark PressCorps. It's a live, community-based call-in show, fielding your thoughts on and tales from the Foxhole War. So join the Discord right now through the link below, sign in through the call queue text channel, and hop in the voice lounge for a chance to share your story. And now, your host, 13-time winner of the Geoffrey Jennings Award for Excellence in Journalism, Geoffrey Jennings.
There we are. All right. Hey, welcome to another episode of Zero Dark PressCorps. We're just getting started here on this lovely April Fool's Day. This is a real show. We're not yanking anyone's chain, so to speak. But we do not have any developer guests today. I know we're quite used to having them on. In fact, it almost seems like the standard for the show to have a developer guest on. And certainly, I'm more than happy to have them on. Whenever and however they want to be on. But this week, I guess they're just so darn busy, which makes sense considering that a lot of the dev streams, if you're watching this from the future, a lot of this is in a waiting period in between updates, and the population has just kept on going. Just kept on being pretty steady. In fact, on this past war, I just had a cookie, so sweet things in my mouth. But we've had plenty of action on the front lines. It's really been fascinating to see it all play out and kind of seeing how Foxhole is quote-unquote envisioned to be when there's a pretty steady population. And we know that's not always going to be a guaranteed thing, but it's just so nice to see. Now, how the developers will have to adjust to this is very interesting, considering that we are so close to 1.0 happening sometime in the summer. If it's still happening, no word yet on if that's changed. But from what we last know for sure, it hasn't changed. That still on track for 1.0 for the summer at some point, as has long been hinted at for the past many months now. But how that changes with the potential for an explosion in player population, well, we're not. We have yet to see how that pans out. So maybe things have changed at Clapfoot in terms of how they want to approach 1.0 or how they want to approach game design now that it's really happening. It's getting closer. It feels much more real than before, and we shall see. I have my opinions on the matter, but we do have a call list that is growing. So you know what? I don't have any opening questions here to throw at anyone. So we're gonna start here with Liquid Popsicle of the 128th. Liquid, hello.
Hello. How are you on this fine evening?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
Well, we had a little bit of a hiccup as far as our base building efforts were concerned. It's one thing that I've wanted to talk about for a long time is the way the bunkers work. But we're doing pretty good despite the hardship. The guys don't want to give up, so that's absolutely amazing.
You know what? While we, I guess I can. There's the call list is growing, so I guess I'll go 8-minute timer. But what kind of improvements would you want to see for base building? Was it more quality of life, or is it like big picture things that you'd like to see changed?
Long term, what I really want to see, and I'm not sure how many people would agree with this, but the bunker upgrades, personally, I think they absolutely have to become a tech option. Something that is unlocked the same way things are in the tech tree. And I understand that brings about the whole, well, what's the point of the infrastructure? What's the point of blah, 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 blah? But the thing is, as it is now, the bunkers don't scale in any way, shape, or form to the tech that's unlocked. They're too strong early and way too leak weight. That makes sense, right? Once you get, siege tanks and all these other things unlocked, they can rip through concrete bunkers that take days to build in 30 minutes. But day one, it takes a lot of effort just to get through one tier 2 rifle garrison.
Wouldn't pacing it with tech also be? Wouldn't that make it harder?
It would make it harder.
So not just harder, but like, because that depends on which point of view you're coming at. But like, kind of exacerbate the issues. I mean,
with the current tech system, because the only issues with the current tech system, at least for bunkers, like the bunker infrastructure, it's just that if you build your bunker any later than day 1, you're behind. Right? Because the infrastructure gain rate doesn't increase as the war goes on, and it takes a fixed amount of time to unlock certain things. So if you build early, you're overpowered, and if you build late, you're extremely underpowered.
So
and
you think
if you
tech would pace that?
Well, yeah, if you switched it over to a tech system, right, where your team is unlocked MG garrison, you can build MG garrisons within 30 minutes of setting up your frontline thing. So even very late in the war, right, you don't have to spend an entire day just trying to unlock a garrison that not that many people, like to build. It's instantly there for you, and it's not going to be anything that's broken because the enemy is going to have plenty of equipment to deal with it at that point in time. And so the days when 48 hour storm cannon setup from start to finish, those were the days. And I don't want to get into storm cannon balance because that's a whole nightmare in and of itself, but the bunkers themselves, they need to change. Personally, I want to see the infrastructure be something that you don't put it down to start unlocking something, you put it down because each individual infrastructure has its own use. Like, for instance, the radio set lets you communicate long distances, right? Other things like that. Not just simple cosmetics, but actual functional items.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of small quality of life things. On top of just, features on top of that, like seeing the radio become an actual radio, I think that would be really cool. I don't know how that works in terms of Vivox. Vivox being the service that provides the game of Foxhole with its voice communications. I don't know how deep they can. I have no idea how that even works behind the scenes. So hopefully they can customize it. I would think they would be able to, because they have squads.
Yeah, I would think so too. Yeah, they have the squad system.
They should have operations.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'm personally hoping, any kind of new artillery, I'm hoping that the Wardens get some kind of field artillery or maybe a self-propelled gun of some kind. And another thing, this is something that I've been wanting to complain about a long time, but I really want to talk to Mark or KFC about it. I know they're super busy. As it is now, the shell rooms are they're something that are highly situational and something you have to work towards, and they don't make anywhere near enough of an impact. The ability to store ammunition that way, when you're about to fire it, needs to be available, within 30 minutes of setup, right? I think there should be tier 2 shell rooms. I think there should be shell piles. I don't think you should be able to squad lock tier 2 shell rooms or shell piles. You should be able to squad lock tier 3, but not tier 2 and not just random piles of shells on the ground.
Which is what
and that would make shell handling so much easier. Another thing, if they could please increase the crate limit in the stockpiles for the artillery shells, because they're only 5 per crate. It would make storing thousands of shells much easier, and that way we don't have to open up 8 or 9 stockpiles to store all our ammunition.
What's the ideal number for you?
Well, ordinarily, and I know this sounds extreme, but with the current artillery system, it's not. We'd like to store anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 shells, and that's.
Now you are a fire support based regiment. That is your shtick.
Yes.
So it might be a little biased in that regard, but that is you're showcasing at least some of the limits that can be shown, or rather.
Because as it is now, 5,000 shells, which I think we've had up to like 8,000 in reserve stockpiles at the highest in War 71. What was it, the update dropped? That's 5,000 shells is 500 crates. And, the transporting issue, not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It makes setup take longer. It makes barrage prep take longer. It gives people a lot of time to rebuild and repair in between each barrage, which significantly helps with balance. But the storing is the primary issue. I think the shell, the size of the crates doesn't really need to be increased. It's the size of the stockpile. So the size of the crates right now is perfectly fine.
I'll be honest. The only kind of fire support I've managed to deal with has been still through the mobile artillery, and it's really just been that. And usually it's done through trucks, so it's a lot of truck relays from the outpost or the bunker base driving up to where our battery is located, about 2 or 3 guns, and then we have runners. That's about the most I've actually had hands on since the update has changed. But I know that's peanuts compared to what the 128th has, and a few other regiments have managed to accomplish.
I think last war we had a fire base in Deadlands, so we set out with the goal of completely leveling Abandoned Ward, and we did.
You did not?
We did. We leveled the entirety of Abandoned Ward. Yeah, no, all of Abandoned Ward was just completely leveled. But we're going to do it even bigger this war, of course. But I'm not going to tell you where the base was, but we had, I think we could store a total of like 2,000 shells, and with the new designs, we've gotten up into the 5,000 territory of shells on site ready to be fired. So you have to, if you want to do any kind of prolonged barrage, the shell rooms are a must. And I love the long barrages, because we had last war an instance where we tried to kill tier 3 ward, and I think we were doing it with 150s, and we sat there and we shot at that town hall nonstop for an hour before it went down. And the only reason it went down is because we had people that were cutting logistics, keeping BMATs from getting there.
Could you?
That was the kind of artillery experience that I love in this game, that I want to see more of.
Oh no, it's supremely gratifying, because they can't hit you back. It's great when you own the zone.
They can. No, it's so. Oh man, as it is right now, the Colonial artillery is invisible, and the Warden artillery is not.
What do you mean by
extra range? As if you do not have line of sight on the Colonial artillery, you can't see it.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Okay, right.
Yeah, and
it's
I'm
not
sure,
considered
as you
a
can
vehicle.
imagine. Well, it's considered a field weapon. It has the same concealment as field weapons do. Meanwhile, the static artillery doesn't have the same concealment that emplacement weapons do. So Warden artillery is always permanently visible. Anyone can see it all the time. Colonial field artillery can move somewhere, be completely invisible, shoot, be extremely hard to find, because basically you have to get lucky, and you have to see them. You have to be looking at where they are right when they fire. Otherwise, there is no way whatsoever for you to know where they are unless you have the experience to look for particular artillery setups. And that gave us a very significant... that gave us a lot of trouble when the artillery update first dropped. And I got really upset with the developers for changing it last minute, because it wasn't that way on the resistance phase right before the war. And I still don't think it's fair. It's not worth 50 meters of range to be completely invisible. It's something that, on top of the new area that we have to cover and make sure there's not anyone that can shoot at us, we have to be able to sit there and stare at it and make sure that they're not firing from there, right? Because we can't see where they are. It's extremely difficult to deal with, and the only way that we can manage is with howitzer garrisons. And I don't like howitzer garrisons. I don't think they should be required. I wish they weren't a necessity in the current meta, but they are, and it's a real shame.
Why is that a shame? And we'll have to move on, but I'll leave it off that.
So the thing with the howitzer garrisons is, I understand their existence. I understand why they're a thing. It's a way to prevent a base from being destroyed by artillery, but it's not interactive to the player, and it's a hard limit, right? It's basically a denial of the ability to play the game, because what you do with a howitzer garrison is you put it on your bunker, and then if anyone dares shoot at your bunker, they die. so they're not going to shoot at it. It's like saying, hey, well, now you can't fire your artillery here, too bad. And it's much more engaging to do counter battery and to have other ways that you can, combat the artillery, like building through it or, taking cover, things like that, trying to figure out where they are and then shooting back. That's much more engaging than, we'll just let the AI do it. AI
right.
takes care
It's
of it.
like it's like when you're in a tank and you shoot at you're out of range of the AT turret. You shoot at the turret and it's going to turn around and shoot at you because it has an automatic response. So it kind of has a cheapness to it, a frustration.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but when you're in a tank, right? You go to a front line and there's like 60 AV turrets on the ground. All you can do is just sit there and look at them. Everyone else has to deal with that for you because it's just a denial of your ability to play the game.
Well, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, isn't that the purpose? Like, hey, it is there to keep you from, it's an anti-you. It's a deterrent.
It is. It's a
same could be said about
the deterrent.
Yeah.
But it becomes at the moment just all of the AI in general is really It needs some improvement, but with the anti-vehicle and anti-artillery stuff in general, it's really, really strong, and it doesn't feel like either you can outright counter it and it means nothing, such as with the Silver Hand and the Falchion. They have so much health and they can do so much damage that they can take one down on their own with no issues, or it's literally something you can't deal with unless someone else deals with it for you, like in the instance of, say, like a half track or even just like one of the normal light tanks. If they try and engage an AV turret, they're just going to get toasted.
Yeah.
So,
well, the real problem is that shame on the community because we don't have our entire lives to dedicate to actually manning the garrisons and sleeping and actually being in the trenches all day and night to make a gameplay engage. No, I'm just kidding around. But yeah, it's a conundrum. No, I'm just joking around. I'm with you.
Before Shard 2, the game had so much population that all of the front lines were populated 24/7. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It was amazing and also kind of broke the game, on a technical level. Like the game was falling apart. But anyway, we have to get going. But some good grievances there and some good feedback. I don't know how to speak to it because you're obviously more advanced in that spectrum than I am. I'm more I'm a little more on the lower end of the earlier end of things.
I don't want to think of myself as like the end all be all of artillery because I'm not. There are things that I don't know.
Oh sure, but
with the changes.
That's the spectrum you occupy.
That's fair.
Field of experience. All right, hey Liquid, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. You have a good night.
You too. Coming up next, Lek, welcome back. Here to talk about apparently small arms balance. Is that correct?
Yeah, howdy. It feels like it's been fucking ages since we've had just a one-on-one without the devs. Those crowd, they've been infesting the place. Ugh.
I know, right? They're just everywhere. They need to just stop having dev streams altogether. It's quite annoying.
No, not dev. They're on your program, Geoffrey, and
okay.
Like, every time I come back, it's the dirty floors and coats hung over the desks. Like
Sure.
There's a coat rack right over there. Like use it. But
Yeah, there you go.
anyway, small arms. Yeah, it's hard to because I was initially expecting there to be like I'll probably go over this again next time.
Okay.
Like the devs are on, just because this is something I believe I did. I don't know if I sent it to Mark or whoever, but I did make like a Reddit post like a week back talking about just small arms balance, and I wanted to give it to them directly, but they're not here. But I figured, hey, let's it's Zero Dark. You know me. I like showing up. Let's have a conversation.
Go for it.
What are you like? So I just want to start off by saying, would you agree with the statement that Colonials just don't have an SMG? We have a machine pistol. Would you agree with that statement that the pitch gun is not an SMG? It is a machine pistol. The ammo type it uses does not factor into this. Like, just going off its stats, it's a machine pistol.
I don't even know about its stats. But just so full disclaimer, I've played both Colonial and Warden in the past couple of wars. I just in terms of how it feels, it feels like a machine pistol because it fills that secondary slot. It's not as strong as an SMG. It doesn't have the same oomph. I feel like doesn't have the same magazine size and whatnot. And yeah, it really feels more on par as a sidearm, which it literally is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the misconception that people have is that they think it's an SMG. No, it's a secondary. It's a machine pistol or kind of like a grease gun. It's more of a grease gun than a Tommy gun, if you get my drift.
It can be quite impactful in commander seats, especially in like a vehicle like the Odyssey, which
I love it. I love the pitch gun. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but just
I don't dislike it. I just hate the fact that the devs like just removed the best weapon in the game from Colonials.
See, I'm a rifler.
Well, look, SMGs have always been like the #1 S tier like super weapon of small arms, like the most all-rounder, the best generalist like gun in the game, like for a reason, right? Sure, you can outplay them with a rifle if you're in a field or in a good like way to do that, like in a field with cover or just generally being smart about how you play, but a lot of the time an SMG will just win that fight, and especially just in just all of the aspects that matter, as well as the ability to just like aim punch, or not aim punch, but the slow punch, I guess. You know what I mean? Slow down by damage. Stagger. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, the staggering is very powerful, and when coupled with other things, the SMG certainly has this. We're painting with broad strokes, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Ultimately, it kind of I'm kind of upset about it because I said going into the first update, like into the update war, that things would be imbalanced for both sides, and I think that was absolutely the correct like observation, because there are so many discrepancies between the infantry trees of both sides. I think Wardens ultimately have the better infantry tech. You could say ISG blah blah blah. Like ISG is overtuned. I don't think it's overpowered. I think it does need to be nerfed. However, I think if you're looking at the whole arsenal of both factions, the fact that Colonials just straight up don't have an SMG, and we have the just by and large worse assault rifle in the LMG versus the storm rifle, I think ultimately, I think it's impossible to look at infantry arms and not see the discrepancy in power level between the two. Like, the ISG is obviously powerful, but I'd equate it to the silver hand in that it's the best thing in the game for what it for doing something of what it's supposed to do. However, that does not make it the best when the entire arsenal it faces against is just much better at doing everything else, right? And I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about the storm rifle? Because the SMG is the obvious one, but what do you think about the discrepancy between the LMG and the storm rifle?
The Colonial LMG that slows you down when you pull it out, right? We're talking about that with the kind of the
the
drum
LMG,
mag
the
on
one
top.
Yep.
The storm rifle definitely has more utility to it. But I'm kind of a sucker for that LMG because it works fantastic in the trenches. I'm a trench rat. I like using trench. So I should say the way I play the game isn't very meta, right? I play for the objective. Don't get me wrong. I play in the meta at that sense, but I don't play the infantry meta in that, this will absolutely win fights every time. It's like, no, I kind of want to play with the trenches. So I might be screwed in that sense, but yeah, from what I've seen if you're talking specifically Colonial LMG versus the Storm Rifle, Storm Rifle has a little bit more of a substantial more utility to it because you don't slow down when you pull it out, whereas the LMG is a little more situational, quite more situational, more urban environments, trenches, which is admittedly where I wind up fighting a lot personally, and that's basically how far it goes for me. It's more It's situational versus a little more general.
Yeah, I don't think I could deny that the LMG is not good as a defensive tool. It's just when you weigh the options, of the storm rifle, which is just a good defensive and aggressive tool because of its just the only thing it has slightly worse in terms of stats is damage, but its damage is still high enough to be a good defensive weapon, and it doesn't suffer from the movement penalty of the LMG. It doesn't suffer from the slowness of turning. Like, you can turn on a dime compared to the LMG. If you're holding it out, it takes forever to turn, so it's a lot worse in CQC. There's just a number of like things like that that just ultimately make it feel so much worse as someone that basically used to only ever use the SMG or SMG rifle and storm rifle, because those were just the best. And ultimately, it just, as an infantry player, even going beyond balance, it just doesn't feel right not having an SMG, because every time you spawn in, it's luck whether your team has stolen some SMGs on that front line or not. And the ability to just not have consistent access to one of the best, but also, I'd argue, most fun guns in the game, because I like playing the game as infantry as hyper-aggressively as possible, trying to exploit any type of like vulnerabilities in the defense, get as deep in it as possible, and appear in places that I should not be, and kill as many people as possible. That is the way I like to play infantry. Like, that hyper-aggressive playstyle is ultimately just something that you can't really do as effectively, because there's not a single good colonial, like, automatic weapon for offense.
You know, I mean, to teach their own. Personally, that's not how I play, so I can't really speak to that too much. I prefer to play with the group, not even necessarily in a squad, although I like joining them every once in a while, but more so just like in the mob, you know. And just kind of leaning on. That's why I'm a little more favorable to the LMG, not in a head-to-head. You know, in a head-to-head, yeah, sure, the storm rifle, it's got a lot more utility to it, but I just really like that LMG because it is damn good at holding down a sector, a field of fire, while other people are doing stuff with their rifles. You get a couple of drum magazines on that one, and it is fun. But again, I think we're in different play styles, so we might not see eye to eye. Not that I'm necessarily disagreeing with you.
I will clarify. When I say playing hyper aggro, that doesn't necessarily mean solo. I usually play solo until I find that vulnerability. Then once I've located it, I try to get the necessary kit and manpower to exploit it to its fullest extent.
Well, like, I know I was gonna make a joke that I know that if I try to play hyper aggressive, all my teammates are going to be winding up playing solo because I die immediately. But yeah, I think we're about at time. But did you have another one other big weapon you wanted to discuss or match up here for talking infantry?
There's not really. There's honestly, it's not even a matter of there being like a huge inconsistency across. Well, actually, you could talk about the burst rifle. This is short. The burst rifle versus carbine. Although the Wardens never seem to have carbines on hand, I think because they're too busy making storm rifles. Yeah, it's very funny to me that like how inconsistent. To quote what I said like another day, like a couple days ago when talking about the Falchion, it's very hit or miss. Like you will get the rare occurrence where you one burst someone, but that does not make up for the like the 3+ clips you had to waste trying to even land a shot with the thing. Well, if you get into a good spot, you can often hit like shots, but it feels like just a slower to. It feels like a less accurate, slower to. You know what I mean?
Slower rate of fire?
No, not rate of fire, but slower to the aim reticle to get back to zero.
Oh, steady.
It just feels steady. It feels slower to steady, less ammo efficient, and it just feels so awkward.
Yeah, I found that when it hits, it really hits because you're getting at least 2 shots, if not all 3 shots into the guy. But if when you miss, you feel super bad because you missed 3 whole shots.
And you miss all the time with it is the thing, because you need to.
Well, I treat it more like a mid-range weapon, right? I'm not treating it like a true rifle, where it's
even treating it as a mid-range weapon, you have to have full stability, or you're not going to hit a damn shot. You can't. Trying to shadow dance with it, I think they changed it between when I tested it on the on the testing branch versus live. Because when I was testing it again on live, just randomly, like during the final days of the first update war, and I was noticing that as I was running around trying to shadow dance and whatnot, the bullets were going sideways.
Your first mistake was trying to shadow dance. I do not understand how anyone can.
It still works. It still works.
That's a problem. That's a problem that needs to be
it is not.
expunged
it takes,
from existence.
No.
I hate Shadow Dance. It's so annoying.
It's very
How do
fun.
people
It's
do
a very
it? Oh, it's dumb. I feel like I'm playing Call of Duty. Like, what's going on here?
look.
I'm doing ballet.
The arcade shooter fan in me loves it, but
Hey, that's
anyway,
fine. Go play a shooter arcade shooter.
No. The reason I love Foxhole is because it combines arcadey shooting with the ability to have big MMO moments where you got like storm cannons, you got like spec ops stuff, you got like tank brigades rolling through, you got like all this like huge logi prep for invasions or operations.
Yeah.
That shit combined with the fact that you can just log on and do shoot some shit, just do partisans, do whatever with like a couple buddies on the front line.
I wish I hadn't brought this up. Because I want to go into it, but I'll just say real quick. That's interesting. You consider Foxhole to be an arcade shooter, not completely. I understand you're not like making that argument.
No, like a tactic,
shooting...
like it. Yeah, it's kind of like I used to play a decent amount of CS:GO and TF2 back in the day, which they're not exactly the same, but they scratched a similar itch for me.
Fair enough.
And Foxhole scratches that itch while also appealing to the MMO fan in me that loves those big epic moments. The problem I have with most MMOs is that they can scratch those big epic moments, but the problem is that they're so rare and they feel so almost the grinding required and the gameplay itself isn't as fun. It doesn't have that sort of you can just go and play the game. Most of them don't have that solid like foundation that I'd say Foxhole has in terms of its like you can talk about Foxhole's issues all day and night, but I think the fact that it combines those two elements together pretty well is ultimately the reason why I've like played for 4 years. But
yeah, when there's a front line and you just kind of walk into it and just start shooting. Yeah, that's absolutely that's interesting. It's like a lobby, right? It's like a team deathmatch lobby in and of itself in a vacuum. Of course, it's not, but I get what you're saying there. Interesting.
That's like the whole appeal for me. Yeah. But anyway, one thing I will end off on.
Yeah, we do have to get going, but
the whole thing you mentioned, like, is there any other weapons? Well, it's mostly just the SMG and Storm Rifle because those two are the most impactful guns, and they've always been the most impactful guns in the game. And that's why SMGs especially are just the lack of one is so noticeable. Like, if you look at just, like, general death stats, like, over the course of the war, the average deaths or the average, the average casualty, I think, directly correlates to that SMG, like, the lack of an SMG. As silly as that might sound, I like attributing it all to just an SMG. I think when an SMG is that common of a weapon, and it's like something that normally is used so frequently, I think that ultimately is the reason that there is this big discrepancy between infantry performance. But yeah.
All right, that's a take from Lek. Thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Coming up next, Stranger Days. Welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps, Stranger. Not a stranger to this show, not whatsoever. But yeah, Stranger Days, what did you have for us here?
Well, originally I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but then Lek was talking about infantry arms, and so I think I'd actually like to talk about them too, but not in the way of faction versus faction.
Okay.
I'd actually come here not as a warden or as a colonial, but a player who's kind of sick and tired of the sheer amount of asymmetry being forced upon us.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I get it. Asymmetry is nice. Asymmetry is fun. I have had some good and bad experiences with asymmetry. But there's no standard. Both factions don't have a starting position. The Colonials have literally the Warden carbine for their starting rifle, whereas the Wardens have the old SMG that we all know and love. And it's kind of staggering having to get used to all of these new weapons, at least for the Colonials, I assume. For the Wardens, we've had a lot of success because we haven't had to relearn any of our weapons. We haven't had to change most of our strategies. The only thing that we got new was the Malone, and everybody loves that because it's literally just an HMG that fires faster. I've seen Colonials have a lot of issues with their new weapons, and I also have disliked it because I've seen just how well people do with the old weapons, and it's kind of awful because I see the things that these can be used for. Like, I fucking love the pitch gun. I absolutely adore the pitch gun.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's a guilty pleasure in some ways, but at the same time, it's like, no, this is just a pleasure. It's just fun to shoot.
Whenever I manage to steal a pitch gun, it's always good fun, especially if I can get like an Odyssey Jeep with it, because then I can just pop out the top and just I'm literally basically a cheaper LMG LUV at that point. I also feel like it's an issue when the developers, especially a particular developer, are saying that they want players to use less and less of the enemy faction's vehicles. Because then it comes down to a case, well, what if the enemy has something that we don't have, and what if we manage to disable it in the field, kill the crew? Why can't we steal that? Why can't we use that? That's wrong. That doesn't feel right. That feels like...
So I am actually one of those people. I'm not saying you can't use the other factions, at least vehicles. Weapons is whatever. But vehicles, I just think this doesn't seem like a strong argument, but there's just something really dumb about seeing a Warden, or they can be interchangeable, but a Warden armor group, for instance, where half of the armor group is a colonial vehicle, and there's something weird about it. There's something dumb about that inherently.
That comes down to the fact that Wardens are missing a lot of vehicles. Yes,
well, there you go.
Yes, the Silverhand is good. But we don't have a specialized tank destroyer. We have the ATHT, but it's terrible off-road, it's terrible health.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's their solution.
Yeah. Well,
if the devs will implement it, that's another thing altogether. But there you go.
That requires the devs to work on it. I mean, there is another solution, right? What if literally we were able to take colonial vehicles that we stole, we put them through the MPF, and we make them Warden that way? Not like permanently Warden, not like we get the vehicle on our tech tree, but just like maybe we get some sort of debuff whenever we're using a colonial vehicle that we just stole.
Yeah, someone mentioned that last show, I think, where it's like, anytime you capture an enemy vehicle from the opposing faction, there's an inherent debuff, like it responds slower. Just however you do that, however you implement it, there's a debuff, and you have to do something with it in order to. You're
using a system that you don't really know, you don't really understand. It's a foreign country system. Who knows? They might have their gunners on the opposite sides of the tank.
It also prevents steamrolls, right? Where it's like, all right, well, we just gassed out the enemy armor. Now we have 2 times the armor, and we have 2 times the armor, and the enemy has none. So it's like.
I do think another issue that I'd like to touch on is the whole clan stockpile thing. Real quick.
Okay.
I remember people have been giving me, not necessarily directly because I have DMs with people that aren't from a few specific servers disabled, but people have been mocking me on a good number of places for the conversation I had with Mark last PressCorps. And something that I don't think really touched on is the fact that Colonials actually did have way more Falchions than we had Silverhands, because they had at least 2 to 1 in storage, and then they had 1.6 to 1 in field. But I feel like the reason why both groups have so many armats, so many weapons, so many shells in storage is because honestly we aren't able to use them when we need to, right? Like, if I want to make a vehicle, if I want a vehicle for later use, and a combat vehicle, and I want to get the most out of it, that means I have to MPF it. Well, if I MPF it, I'm making it in sets of 3, so that way I'm not wasting armats for the rest of the team. And there's no way that I can just save one of my vehicles and give the rest to everybody else. I have to, like, squirrel away 4 crates of Silverhands, break 1 crate of Silverhands out, and then use one of the 3 Silverhands that I broke from that crate. That leaves 4 whole crates in the storage. I don't feel like that's good. I feel like the response of the devs of making it so that way you can't privately store small numbers of military vehicles has actually made hoarding a worse issue. Because you don't see people storing off like 1 or 2 vehicles. You don't store off like just your favorite Silverhand, or a favorite vehicle that you had good fun with. Maybe even you have like an armored car that you have a story behind. But you can't even store like 5 of these things. You're just stuck leaving them out for other people, hoping that it gets used by a player who's semi-competent. Mm-hmm. And if you want to have more vehicles for later, then you just have to mass produce them, and if you don't use them, then they go to waste.
Okay, yeah. I can't speak to that personally, but it's, yeah. Well, sorry, when I do Logi, it's usually a direct shipment to the front line, or I'm just a mining drone. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
See how that math plays out.
It's just one of those things that I don't think a lot of people think about, right? Because usually you think of the non-clan side of things, but on the clan side of things, if I want to do like an armored column, if we want to have like 3+ silver hands in a group because we have the manpower, we have the skills, we farmed the resources for it, we need to prepare well in advance with the MPF, and we can't really like do things in a way that makes it efficient for the rest of the team. So you have groups going out and clearing out the component fields constantly so nobody else can get comps. There have been 1 or 2 situations where I was at a comp field and another clan was actually bumping other people with their prototype harvesters so that way they could get to all the components because sledgehammers had unlocked. And there's nothing that we could do. We of course we don't want to like team kill them or shoot at them or yell at them or anything, but this is just a guy being an asshole because he wanted more comps. And to a certain extent I can understand why he did that. He wanted to build his clan's tanks. He wanted to have that ready for however many members he had for his group. That's awful.
You gotta work it out. I don't know. That's an advanced social issue. That sounds dumb, but like, you know what I'm talking about. It's something that, how do you plan around that, right? It's like, who decides who should get more? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a first come first serve system, but it's also a system where best come best serve.
Who defines best, right?
Well, most heavily armed first served.
Well, you can't team kill. I mean, you can, but then you should get reported. So.
Well, I mean, saying that, the guy who was bumping a harvester, we saw 404th pass by.
Can't say names. Can't say names. Let's not do that.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we saw a 404th tankette pass by us, and I was like, I should take care of that tankette, but that harvester just went up the road. That's kind of not my issue right now. I'm going to keep farming comps. We came upon the smoking wreck of the harvester later, and it was a proto, so can't move that once it's damaged.
All right, well, strangers, I think we're at time, but thanks for stopping by.
Hey.
Appreciate it.
Y'all have a good one.
Well, coming up, I feel bad, because some of these things I can't really speak to, because it's like arguments between regiments. I don't know, just work it out. I don't know. Spots, welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps. What do you got for us here? I always look forward to your call.
I actually have I just have no clue.
Okay.
Except for the fact that we're discussing about this in call queue.
Okay.
First things first, Stranger Day has made abominations of vehicles that you need to take a look at.
No, I'm good. I have a feeling I know what they'll look like, but yeah.
Yeah, as well as that we're discussing about how useless the mortar light tank is.
The Warden light tank. So this is the OG
mortar
light tank. Oh, the mortar. I'm sorry, the mortar light tank.
It's so useless that there's no point in tanking it. That's how useless it is. Imagine the
What
tank.
was it? What was the? Was it guaranteed tech or was it? I forget.
No. You have to actually go out the way to tech it, and no one wants to tech it because it's just 165 RMATs, and it's just a tank that just has a mortar on it that you can kill yourself with. And I'm not even joking with that. If you actually do mid range and you're facing directly into your win, you can actually hit yourself with the mortar.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Right, but still, it's like
it's
absolutely useless because it's super expensive.
What's the range? What's the range on it, real quick? What's the range on it?
It's the same as every mortar in the game, 80 meters.
80 meters, huh?
Yeah, it's just super useless. There's no point in producing it because it's 165 RMAS.
Do Colonials still use the mortar half track? I haven't.
They do because it's way cheaper than the mortar light tank. I think it's like 100 RMATs less.
100 RMATs less. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
But still, it's kind of just like useless in the current meta because mortars just got absolutely nerfed in this update.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Personally.
But my idea was, why don't we just change the mortar out for like a light artillery piece? Keep everything the same, but change it for a light artillery gun, like the 55 millimeter.
Right. So you want to see oh my goodness, mobile artillery.
Yeah,
which
more.
technically, technically, I mean that's fire support more than anything with a mortar. But yeah, you want to see a gun. You want to see a priest. You want to see a priest. Self-propelled artillery.
Yeah, I want to
SPG.
see more. Yeah, that's one thing that the devs will do, and I think that will be what the more light tank should become.
Man, I feel like SPGs would be just way overpowered.
Actually, no. I feel like SPGs, depending on how they are made, I feel like they should be the most expensive vehicles in the game.
Better
for
be.
just for the mobility aspect, as well as that they should have two different fire modes: a deployed mode and a non-deployed mode.
That's fair. And that thing should guzzle petrol like nobody's business.
Yeah, as well as that should guzzle fuel as well. It should be like a vehicle that you should be using as as well as that should be pretty weak compared to most other vehicles.
Mm-hmm. I did not think about deploying and undeploying. I didn't think about that. That's some good old RTS stuff right there.
Yeah, that's some good old RTS stuff right there. Just deploying and undeploying. That's what a lot of mobile artilleries have to do, actually. They actually have to deploy because the recoil of the gun itself shakes them back.
Yeah.
Plus that they can be limited to a certain amount of shells inside them as well.
Mm-hmm.
There are many ways to limit the powerfulness of a mobile artillery piece. You can limit it by your shells, like deploying and undeploying, like all these things you can do to limit the power of it.
Should also be slow as hell. Should be slow as the ballista.
Right, it should be a slower piece of tech as well. And it should reward experienced tank players as well. If you can get a hit on it and kill it, that should be a rewarding kill for the tank players.
Well, Spots, I think you've convinced me. I think it's time for the SPG to make its debut. Whether it actually will, that's anyone's guess. But yeah, be interesting.
Remember, actually in the dev stream, they did mention a future possibility for SPGs to be added to the game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where enough people treat it like a guaranteed thing that the devs get tricked into thinking it's also a guaranteed thing. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, but still, I feel like SPG should be a vehicle that should be really balanced, like thought about, like what should each faction.
I mean, that goes for all vehicles, but yeah.
Right, except for the whole Falchion situation. But I'm not going to talk about that because that's just like, oh god, who set the world on fire?
Yeah, frankly, I can't speak. It sucks because that's such a big thing, but I can't really speak to. It's funny because we haven't seen Falchions in a war, right? In a whole war, because it's been,
but yeah, because Warden's like, we need to kill the end. Yeah.
Let me talk about something interesting here. So it's and maybe this isn't an ideal situation, but it is something cool that happened. So in War 71. Yeah, in War 71, the Falchions was the big savior for the colonials, among other things, other factors, but that was cited as the big thing, hey, this turned the tide of the war, this thing was a godsend, this thing was beautiful. So what did the Wardens do in the next war, on top of other factors, of course? What did the Wardens do? Yeah, they closed out the war as fast as they possibly could, so it seemed, at least, as fast as they possibly could, and tried to beat the colonials before they could get the Falchions deployed.
Right, I was there. I was there when we took. I was there when I think I wasn't directly there, but I was aware when we took Silk Farms because that was a massive downfall moment.
Now,
I was there when we took Stradia.
Let me be clear. I don't think that's necessarily the whole Falchion situation may be ideal, or maybe if it's if that's even what truly happened. I like to believe that the Wardens. They decided to blitz the colonials and just really work hard to making sure they deny the colonials their Falchion.
I wasn't aware of both of those wars. I currently still am, but taking kind of a hiatus.
Is that the truth? Is that the truth of what happened? I like to think so, based on what I saw.
Yeah, I was in the Warden Uni Hub meeting. They're like, these Falchions are actually a problem themselves. They're discussing how it's an actual problem for them to deal with because every time they got into battle, they were just so tanky they couldn't actually kill it. So they actually had to. They're like, we need to aim for those mass production factories because this work gives us a unique opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so you're saying that according to the Warden Unity Hub, if you feel safe disclosing this, you're saying that was an actual objective that they set up? Hey, we need to go for these MPFs.
Yeah, that was And mainly the French were behind that push.
Okay, that's actually really, really cool. Can we revel in that for a second? Maybe not intended or ideal, but the fact that a whole faction, or at least a significant portion of a faction, or at least the power players in it, I don't know, actually came together and actually made it a war goal, a overarching macro objective to go after a specific structure or specific asset, because in the previous war, it was a threat that really did harm to them, and they planned for it in the next war. That's so cool. Find that in Foxhole.
Yeah, that was like the actual thing. They're like, these mass production tanks are way too broken to current, so we need to at least destroy the current like iteration of them until we get that quote unquote vehicle they show off in the promotional art.
I kind of almost don't want to make any more changes based purely on that. Just the Falchion is the big bad. Yeah, that's really cool. Again, diamond in the rough, because I know that there's a lot of controversy over, quote unquote controversy, over the whole vehicle meta or whatever. I don't know. I just think that's really cool. So yeah, hey, Spots, thanks for reminding me of that. I remember seeing the war happen. It's like, are they gonna make it before they roll out the colonial armor? Is that on purpose? That's really cool.
Yeah, they actually did that. That was, as well as that they're planning to siege Blemish, but that didn't happen because.
Yeah. All right, hey, Spots, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I'm going back.
All right, let's see. Wraith coming up next from the Red Cross, amongst another faction, another regiment, I think, is Wraith 146. Oops, I think I accidentally dragged him out. Welcome back, Wraith 146. Welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps. What do you have for us?
Yeah, it's unexpected. I didn't expect the call today. What is that? Oh, hi, Geoffrey. Hello, Geoffrey.
Hello, hi. Are you calling from your phone?
I'm walking the dog.
Oh, hey. Okay. Let's see if we can have a full-on conversation while you're walking your dog. That's awesome. Thanks for literally calling in. Yeah, what do you have for us here tonight?
I just was talking about the stuff that happened during the last two wars of Century Toss.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I did not get to ride a Falcon. That did not happen.
You did not get to use a Falchion.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
What I did get to use was the floating cannon.
Say that again. Say that last part again.
The floating cannon, the ICS, infantry gun.
Okay.
I got to use that. The gun that goes in the cyber. Okay. I got to use that multiple times.
So what did you think about it?
And that gun, I love it, and it makes me angry.
Why does it make you angry?
Well, no. Because people keep fucking with it.
People say that again. Say that again.
People keep fucking with the gun when you place down the ciphers and you place down the gun, and then you go back to get cells. By the time you get back, someone has pressed E somewhere near the gun, and it has disassembled.
Gotcha. So this is more like a tripod frustration overall. Now, how many of those dismantles was by accident? Because I know I have personally accidentally dismantled a gun on someone while I was giving them ammunition. And that is the worst I've ever felt in a while in the game. It's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. How many of those were accidents, would you say?
I don't know. All I know was that most of the time it was low rank.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense. Because they're not used to the key bindings yet.
And also, like, veterans don't know if it's a new gun, but it's mostly been low rank who don't recognize the value of this gun.
No ranks and me. That's usually what it's probably going to be. If people are dismantling your gun by accident, it's low ranks and me. Honestly, the dismantle should be a different key binding altogether, because that's
I think it should be E6. No, not E6. It should be like Q.
Well, no, Q is actually like getting into a vehicle, which I get, but it's
F. It should be F.
It could be F. Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay. Anyway, I got to use that, and that thing's great.
Do you think it's overpowered? You're biased, I know.
Yes, I'm biased, but like I'm not sure. Because I remember this one time where I engaged scout tanks with it.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily end it. But I remember this other time where I engaged the O'Brien armored car for the Warden.
Right.
And I killed them. There was like 2 of them. They rolled up and they died near instantly. Like it took like 2 shots to disable them, and then a 3rd shot to kill them. Like 2. So in total, I spent 6 shots and killed 2 armored cars, and that wasn't over like a minute. That was over a couple of seconds. So that thing's awesome. That was awesome.
Nice.
Like, also, I really like the fact that the dev didn't make it so restrictive on where you can place it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can place it, like, literally anywhere. Not
Pretty
literally
much.
anywhere, but like, most places.
I
Like, pretty
wish
much. And you can
trenches
put it on-
were as flexible, but sadly no. But yes, at least we didn't have that problem with the tripod.
Yeah. That was awesome. I remember this one time where I managed to get the angle right and managed to out of a bunker. Not in. No. It was in a bunker, and I got out of it, which like could not necessarily be possible, but I did it because I managed to angle the gun right through the window and hit the scout tank I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know what hit them. They couldn't see where I was firing from. They just knew that they got too close to something.
They just knew.
Shot.
They just knew.
Yeah. Okay.
Some
Okay.
might call that cheap,
Okay.
but when you're behind it, I guess not so much. But we'll see. Anyway, Wraith, I want to thank you for coming in to call here through the phone. You just gave me a wave of nostalgia for back when I was in the actual radio station. I haven't actually had someone literally call in through their phone in such a long time. Nice aesthetics. But in any case,
I've always been calling from a phone. Every single time I've called you, it's through the phone.
oh, there you go. Perfect.
That's
It
cool.
just really felt evident this time.
Yeah, just think it's the first time it's outside.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Wraith. Farewell to your dog, and yeah, have a good one.
Say bye, Lilo.
Bye, Lilo.
Bye.
Farewell. Oh, that's so cute. All right, so we're going to skip over Canadian Cowboy because he is currently away and asked to be skipped. So we are going to go now to Zackreaver. Zach, well, welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps. What do you have for us?
1 second. I was not expecting to be this soon. I thought Canadian was going first.
Yeah, I know, right? That's okay.
I figured I couldn't really think of much to talk about, so I figured I'd just kind of talk about what I was going to talk about last time, but I couldn't show up. I also had to get a new microphone. I hope you enjoy it.
I was wondering, it sounds nice. So you know what? Go ahead and go into your thing, and I'll keep that in the back of my mind.
All right. So the last time I was going to mention how the game just sort of feels like it's more rewarding to play the game when there's no enemies to fight. And
Interesting.
The main thing that tied to is it's kind of a weird war to bring that up because during that exact same war,
everything's filled to the brim with people, right?
Oh yeah, like the servers were just overloading, and you know I kind of expected that because new update, all the old players come back to try out the new stuff, and then a bunch of new people show up because it's a sale.
Mm-hmm.
But I already knew, having played the game long enough, that the people that get deep into the game start to notice the flaws more often, and they start to die down. Which is kind of already happening very rapidly. The game went from 4K players down to kind of an average of 1.5K or so. Mm-hmm. It was getting pretty low in the late numbers, and when that happens, there's always going to be a shifting balance of players. Sometimes one side's going to have more than the other, and that's kind of what I'm more pointing to. When it gets to that shift where one side has more than another, it's just a steamroll, and it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So how would you suggest on balancing that out?
So here's the thing: the
if
game
it should be
already
balanced out
had
at all.
those things. What's up?
If it should be balanced out at all.
It should be balanced, and it was balanced. The thing was, before Arms Race, we had the old system with upgrade parts. And while it wasn't a perfect system, there was one very important thing you could do with it. You could throw down a base, you could fill it with upgrade parts, and it had AI. You could use that AI to counteract the fact that you have less people. When you have less people, you're usually on the defensive. And when you're on the defensive, they're trying to destroy your stuff. And when you're able to run around through your defenses and shoot people that are attacking, they can't get their stuff back because your Foxholes are protecting you. And if you die, your stuff will probably still be there until they kill your defenses. So AI defenses are great for just counterbalancing the numbers difference. But we kind of lost that in arms race because now getting AI is entirely tied to time.
Were you around for when U parts were the norm? And, well, I mean, obviously you are, but like, did you participate in the Zero Dark PressCorps back when that was a thing? Back when that was the norm?
No, I haven't participated during the Zero Dark during that time, but
I kind of wish you had, because back then it was literally nothing but people shitting all over, just pounding into dust.
When I first joined this game, there were tunnel networks.
Right, same here.
I was around during the tunnel networks era, and let me just tell you, when I played back then, the game sucked. That's just how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Because I did not like how my best strategy for when I'm just a brand new player, because I didn't have a clan during that time, I wasn't part of 82nd, I would get a truck of B-mats and just build Foxholes and tunnel networks everywhere. Anybody that stopped me, I shot them with a rifle. It was really easy, and it was kind of boring because it's a battle of who makes more. When I came back, there were a lot of changes since then. Like, before upgrade parts had started to become more prevalent, fobs were the essentially new tunnel network, and it was kind of getting a little bit better. I like more open areas where there's no AI and it's just a no man's land. But AI is important for certain scenarios. I don't want the game to be about, oh, no one's guarding this town hall, let's satchel and reset it with CV. I want the game to be about players fighting players, not players sneaking around and blowing up bases.
See,
that's my biggest problem.
I agree with you, but it's tough because basic, military principle or, strategic, tactical, whatever, dictates flanking, right? Go where the enemy isn't and exploit them there, right? Everything about how we're taught about how to play a game is to say, hey, go around them and hit them where they're not.
Yes, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm okay with flanking. It's just that the current system encourages you to actually just play during the hours that no one's playing. Since this game is 24/7, there are specific uptimes and downtimes for players, and people always give me shit. It's like, stop shitting on the people that play during a different time zone. I don't have anything against that. I don't have anything against the fact that there's going to be time zones on some factions that are going to have more players than others. My issue is when the game ends up being built around that being the strongest thing you could do. And things have gotten a little bit better, because here's the thing. Back then, it was a lot more difficult to play defensive, and this is kind of going on what Mark was talking about, because all the offensive tools were extremely strong. Field artillery was a sniper. Satchels were still incredibly strong. Tanks used to have high explosive shells. Defenses were weak compared to what you could blow them up with. But now, defenses have kind of flipped around. Defenses are more durable and harder to kill, but and artillery is less of a sniper. But we still have this system where it just kind of feels like this is difficult to explain, because I don't like how
it's tough because there's just a million factors that go into every single point of argument that we're each making. So it's hard.
Because, like, whenever I hop onto Foxhole, my favorite thing to do is just go to a front line and just feel like I'm in a war zone. But knowing how the game works, the most effective thing that I could do is get a group of guys and just get a CV and a bunch of explosives and go blow up a town and reset just to frustrate people. Because I know that makes a bigger impact than going onto the front line, grabbing a rifle and shooting. And I think that's a safer topic to talk about, how the current frontline meta has changed with the small arms update. Have you noticed that there's bunkers and rifle garrisons literally everywhere?
I love it. Yes, I love it.
Here's the thing. I love bunkers. It's one of my favorite things to do in this game.
Uh-huh.
I didn't need the buff, though. Like, the small arms update made it too easy.
But what do you mean by... I mean, which buff are you talking about?
So, you know how structures used to be hurt by small arms, and then they changed the small arms update?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So, when I heard about that, I'm like, can you start with world structures and not apply to literally everything?
Nah, see, I think it was for the better. I think it's for the better. The fact that I can't...
sort of, but now it's...
With rifle? Like, the fact that... would you want a basic rifle to do damage to a bunker base? A tier 1 bunker base?
Here's the thing that was special about the bunker base and rifle garrisons, and the whole reason why I love bunker bases to begin with. Rifle garrisons get a range extension when you shoot them. So if you were able to shoot it, yeah, it would be able to shoot back. It kind of had a reverse suppression unless you had a heavy weapon. Mm-hmm. Which was like kind of a counterbalance to it. And when they did the small arms update, I'm like, okay, this is nice and all, but you gotta understand, a rifle garrison is 125 BMATs. Those are cheaper than gun nests. It is very easy to go to the front line and make a rifle garrison. A lot easier than it is to destroy one, especially in the early game. You have no idea how many people who enjoy dedicated infantry hate how the game has devolved to, alright, grab an HE, run in and throw it.
You know what? I think... So that specific thing that you're talking about... I mean, I personally think defenses should be stronger overall, but you're right. The thing I don't like about the rifle garrison right now, the rifle garrison versus the regular bunker that you can walk into, right? With a firing port or pass through, right? You have to choose between those two, essentially. I don't like that.
It's more just that AI is so important with how the game works, because you only can have like 100 people per side in each map, and the maps end up being massive. You can't have people everywhere, and if you try to split it, it's a logistical nightmare. Mostly just trying to tell people to leave this front, go there. But more importantly, I just feel like the change for the small arms update was kind of a bit rushed, because
no, I think it came right on time. But go on.
I feel like defenses probably should have had some kind of change to them. Like, maybe rifle garrisons be a little bit more expensive. Not that I want the grind to be more, but have some kind of different adjustment to them. Because there's no reason to have tier 1 rifle garrisons. They're too prone. Like, you always want to go to tier 2. And foxholes have kind of just been sort of phased out. Like, if you want to hold any ground, you bring down rifle garrisons, and you just put those everywhere.
Hey, personally, I like that. I know the name of the game is literally Foxhole, but like, if foxholes and gun nests went away forever, fine by me.
I mean, the game might as well be renamed to Rifle Garrison at this point.
Hell yeah! Hey, no joke. Go for it. I am very much akin to that. I love trenches. They've got a lot of problems, but those can be improved upon. Just the basic fact. I actually have like a running quality of life list for trenches specifically, and it's the longest.
Hey, a real quick question for you. What do you think my preferred most activity to do in this game is?
I don't know you well enough to know.
Just take a guess.
Building? I don't know.
I mean, that's a fair guess. That is what I've been doing a lot of nowadays, but I'm actually a tank guy. I'm the kind of player that likes to do the long game. Like, every time I play this game, I want to build up to some big end game where I'm bringing something important to the fight. Right now, building is the most long game thing I can do. I'm usually going around making storm cannon bases.
Yeah. Oh, but, sorry, real quick. One thing that I wanted to mention this earlier. One thing I'd like to change between the rifle garrison is to, instead of having a dedicated rifle garrison that can shoot 360 degrees around it, I really wish you could have the regular bunker with a firing port, right? And then you can upgrade that firing port to be AI. Instead of having to, this bunker that you could interact with, that you could walk through, that you could fire from, multiple people could walk through and fire from at the same time. This is now completely reserved off for just AI. One person can sit in it like a foxhole. I think that's dumb.
There's a lot of things I could talk about just are bunker related, but I already know the devs have a lot of things they have planned for it. Have you noticed that a lot of bunkers just don't have different damage states? Like, it'll be at 100% or 1%, it looks exactly the same.
Now that you mention it, yeah.
Bunkers are kind of like an unfinished product in this game, and I'm waiting for the additions for it. Like,
for sure.
Markfoot and the guys have all said that Storm Cannon is just one of the many ideas they have for it. I'm excited to see the new things, but I could go into long details about that. I feel like bunkers should work differently, like not the entire thing break at once. But I kind of want to go back on the trench topic, because having played this game enough, I want to tell you something.
We'll close with this. Go for it.
Tier 2 trenches suck, and the reason why they suck is there's no actual benefit to upgrading them. Like, you upgrade them, you're spending 50 BMATs to make it not able to be run over by trucks, but tanks can still run them over. And the thing is, sure, it's kind of dumb that you can do that, but at the moment, in the current setup of the game, there's no strategic benefit for upgrading them. And the thing is, with most other things, you upgrade them to get access to something else. And I would just love if trenches had something more to them. Like, if Tier 2 trenches had some kind of upgrade that was unique to Tier 2, they would be more valuable. Because right now, you're better off sticking to a Tier 1 trench, because if it gets run over, just retake it for free. It's free, and it doesn't cost any maintenance, you don't have to get more PMATs, you just take out your shovel and dig a new one.
Yeah. No, I see where you're going with that, and it's yeah, I actually think it's kind of dumb that the one real benefit from upgrading to Tier 1 to Tier 2 is something that I think shouldn't even be in the game. Like the fact that you can destroy a trench and explode everyone like a piñata into the air by by bumping into the trench. I think that's dumb, which we all agree I think is dumb.
I feel like the problem should be they need something to get from it, because right now the only trench worth upgrading is the emplacement trench, because it actually makes the emplacement in it better. That's what they got to go for. They got to give us different reasons aside from just, oh, a truck can't run it over. Because if I don't want a truck to run over my trench, I put a bridge on it.
Yeah, what's the difference between a trench 1 garrison and a trench 2 rifle garrison, other than more health?
Oh, you mean just rifle garrison difference?
Yeah,
I don't know the exact health difference. The main thing is Tier 1 rifle garrisons can take damage from HMGs and such.
Tier 2 can't.
Yeah, if you don't upgrade all the bunker pieces, like just leave one part exposed, you can take an HMG, an FMG, or any weapon of that caliber, like any heavy kinetic weapon, and you could just kill it. It doesn't matter if the entire rest of it is Tier 2 or Tier 3. One Tier 1 segment is an exposed weak point that will kill the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, some food for thought. All right, thanks, Zackreaver. That call went through quite nicely. It went through very fast.
I had it a lot clearer, but honestly, I was not expecting to be up this soon.
There you go.
Sure.
Hey, Zach, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, coming up next from the Swords of Morrow, or Psalm, we have Seeker Hunter. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's good to be back.
Yeah, for sure. What do you got for us tonight?
So, I was thinking, of course, we always have the talk of what's balanced, what's not balanced, what's going to change. But I want to take a step away from that. Just have a little fun.
Okay.
Talk about things that could be. So, I've just been exposed to how the models work on TTS. If you're familiar with the Colonial Vehicle mod and Warden Vehicle mod.
I am not.
So someone has, I believe it was a PressCorps member. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name.
Was it Robert? Oh, you're talking about Tabletop. I'm sorry, you said TTS.
Yes,
that didn't connect with me. Yes, Tabletop Simulator. Robert Spark, or Robot Spark, has created this wonderful array of mods for Foxhole-based mods for Tabletop Simulator. You can check it out on the Steam Workshop. And let me look it up here. I'll put it on the screen once I figure out the OBS for that. But yeah, you wanted to talk about that?
Not necessarily just that.
Okay. That's okay.
This is something I was just exposed to, which goes along with my topic very well.
Right.
I was thinking, well, we always have, of course, these ideas for cool new death machines. But why don't we have more things like the ambulance? I mean, it's said that for every 1 man you have fighting, you have 10 more in the fields.
Okay.
In this case, our 10 men is actually like a half a person doing logistics. But what if we had, more systems that would support not logistics necessarily, so not new types of just logistical vehicles, but things that are kind of like not combat, but kind of like sideline things you'd be doing on the side of combat. So kind of like how the ambulance performs, where it's not on the front, it's just kind of like there.
I mean, I think there's a lot of that already. I mean, you've got maybe not enough, but I know there's builders who are constantly trying to repair, upgrade, and try to really modify the battlefield situation to get whatever advantage they can. I know I personally play kind of a custodian or cleaner role, where I'm constantly scavenging for supplies, bringing them back to the stockpile, or just doing various other odd jobs around a very busy front line. You've got people who, sometimes I'll even pump gas for people, which is dumb, but it's like there's something really cool about doing that. But yeah, so you've got me interested in it. You got me thinking about along those lines again. What else do you have in mind then?
So, something I was thinking of would be a type of like ammo storage.
Okay.
So, of course, we have vehicles that can stack ammo to 99.
This is different from the stockpile.
Different from the stockpile, but what if we had something that was like a field gun, where you push it around? And it's like a mobile like resupply thing, so you can use it for like artillery.
Oh, I see. So it's like a mobile stockpile, a mini stockpile that can only be used for ammunition.
Yeah, it's like an ammo room, except it's mobile, and it doesn't just have to be used on artillery shells. It can be used on like
RPG shells.
Or it's just got like a box of rifle ammo.
So here's what most people don't realize with the ambulance, right? The ambulance can stack plasma. You can't do that in a backpack. In a backpack, one plasma takes up one slot, but you can stack them in an ambulance. And that is a very unique and useful. That's why you see ambulances near a front line, uncomfortably close. That's why. So you're saying you want something like that. So, for instance, RPG shells, those take up a whole slot. You can't stack them, right, in your backpack?
Yeah. So maybe you have like a little vehicle that can stack like a small amount of them.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Not, again, something that wouldn't be able to stack like 100 per stack, but maybe
there's
like
a limit
something where it caps out like maybe at most you can stack like 5 to 10.
Sure, 10 RPGs, 30 tank shells or something. The numbers can be messed around with, but I like the baseline idea. Have you please put that on Reddit somewhere?
Well,
do a draw.
Now that I have been exposed to this wonderful tabletop sim tool, I can actually kind of create a very
you can model it.
Design for it.
That's
yeah,
true.
I can kind of make like a vehicle model for it.
That's really cool, huh? Yeah, work on that one. Workshop that one, because I would absolutely use that.
Again, these are things I'm just spitballing here, but it's just something that are cooler ideas that I think that that just kind of drive home the purpose.
Would it
not
be
everything is just combat.
Right. Would it be motorized, or would it be like a push thing, like a wheelbarrow?
Maybe what happens is you start off with a push version in like the lower tech tree. So maybe like tier 3-ish, you have like the push one.
Right.
But then you get down to like, tier 8. You're getting tanks and stuff. And then you get like a motorized version that it's like an auto tech.
Yeah. Oh, those things would be so... Because I know someone else mentioned like, a specific shell carrying vehicle, but just having a general ammunition carrying vehicle, that'd be really cool. Those things would be such pinatas, though. People would hunt those down, which is part of the charm of it, right? Yeah,
and also neat idea for that too. Is you blow one up, you get maybe like a special effect where all the shells and stuff and all the ammunition cook off.
It'd be like a loot box. People say that Foxhole doesn't have any loot boxes, but hey, honestly, those trunks you find in every front line, those blue trunks, those are kind of loot boxes, man. Those are the I'm being facetious here, but you know what I'm talking about. The grab bag of whatever's in here, you deal with. But yeah. I
mean, hey, I found a lot of good stuff in there in the past.
Actually, that's a
opened
good
one up
streak.
one time, and there was like
Yeah.
6 Voltas in them.
it was someone's Volta collection.
Yeah, it was someone's Volta collection, except it was like 4 feet from the front line.
Yeah.
I was like, don't mind if I do.
There you go. Did you have anything else for us?
Well, aside from just the ammo carrier, I was
Uh-huh.
also, thinking about, well, what else support roles are out there? So, of course, we have the very combat role, but what about maybe so we have the Odyssey as like a good observation vehicle. What if there was maybe something a bit more heavy or light duty? So, like something to act as like another type of like observation platform.
Okay. Observation platform. A mobile observation platform. So just give the ability to man a watchtower.
Basically, just give some like more variation on spotting, except from like I spot from vehicle or I spot from ground. Give some more variation.
Yeah.
Another thing I was thinking about was a very heavily modified like APC.
Okay.
So instead of carrying the people with the guns, it's just a very large APC that has space for a container.
Okay. What would the
You
container
can do
be?
things like, well, it's a container of like a SS container of if you really wanted to,
yeah.
you throw like a resource container on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the shippable container. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
just
Write all these down, please, and do a write-up on them, because I forget easily, and I mean, also, I can't do anything with them, but they sound cool.
yeah, it's just I'm someone here who wants, like, sure, combat's cool and stuff, but why don't we also have like some more support options? Because I mean, they're not everybody in the war is actively shooting each other.
You're speaking my language. You really are, because shooting is not my most. It's not my go-to activity either. For sure. Well, if that's all you had, thanks for stopping by. You've got me thinking now along that line.
Get the gears grinding.
Yeah, pretty much. But,
And well, if I may, I have one more thing.
Okay. We'll end with this
For
one.
the viewers who are listening in, please also create more of these ideas too. I mean, it's just us up here right now on the air, so of course, we can only come up with so much.
Let me say, come with them, but fully flesh them out first, like as much as you possibly can. Do not brainstorm.
Flesh them out.
Yeah, brainstorming is whatever, but definitely fully flesh them out. I know I sit on ideas for like months at a time, and then I'll revisit them later, usually at the right moment. But yeah, I'm all for it. There's someone on the subreddit, actually. His name's Carl the Killer Gamer, and every week or two he posts like some random naval idea, and he doesn't get a lot of upvotes, but I always upvote him because it's like, hey, it's not hurting anyone, and it actually makes me think about naval some more. So if there's anyone you can thank for future naval mechanics coming back into the game or naval ideas, it's probably his Reddit post keeping the idea alive more than anything. Yeah.
I mean, hey, it was his idea that got me spitballing on how to take out Cuba.
There. There's a whole story there, but we won't go into it. Seeker Hunter, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank
you for having me.
All right, so coming up next, we do have Glass, but you know what, Glass? I'm going to have you sit here for just a second. I'm going to deafen because I need to go to the bathroom, but more importantly, we need to give some attention to Robert Sparks' Foxhole mods for Tabletop Simulator. I am find this. Let's see. Yeah, look up Foxhole mods for Tabletop Simulator, and I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to literally just put the screen here, and you, sitting on YouTube, sitting on Twitch right now, find this and subscribe to it right now, or promote it. Just do that right now. Okay, all right. Hey, sorry to keep you waiting there, Glass. If you're still there.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Can you hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. What do you have for us? Welcome to the show.
Oh, hi. This is my first time, so yeah. Hi. I was just, talk about the first experiences on the game because I'm new to the game.
Fantastic.
I joined the winter update with the $10 discount. So yeah,
You got a
kind
deal.
of new to the game. Yeah. Like, I don't know how to start. Like, I'm just gonna explain my situation. Like,
Okay.
I like Foxhole. Between all the games that I have been played throughout that are MMOs or things with logistics, this is my first one. I have been, addicted to this game, to say the least. I joined a major clan. I have expended like 300 hours in my Steam account in this game,
Nice.
and it is the best game that include logistics because most of the time they don't include that kind of stuff in most of the games. So I really like this game, in other words, but I'm new to the game. There's a lot of things I'm trying to figure it out. I have to memorize all these slangs. I have to search whatever thing is outdated or not because I was not here, since a long time ago. I've been playing Wardens. My clan is 82k, so I got to say that even though I love this game, I don't like its balances, or at least its recent balances. There has been a lot of users from at least my side. I'm gonna say I'm biased, of course, that I'm Warden. That they like the game, but they don't like the devs. They don't like the balancing. They don't like the current status that most of us have, and I agree with them. Sometimes, normal with them, because the recent introductions in the game are good, but they are sometimes strange.
So let's get into some details.
Yeah.
What would you have?
Like it has been already mentioned before, the lack of armor variety in the Warden side, the ICGs, the small arms of the college. The balance in this game is not pretty good. There's always one side that has better things than the other. Like the Warden side, they are superior, not 100%, but pretty superior. College in
In what ways? Are you talking about overall or?
Yeah, not overall. They have good weapons. The Fusina rifle, I love that gun. The pitch gun, I love that gun. Every single time I have the possibility of getting that gun, I steal it. I just love it. I prefer it over the Warden SMG.
So were you saying that the Colonials have a better small arms game, whereas the Wardens have a better armor game?
No, I'm just saying that it's an exception because most of the college weapons are bad. The pitch gun is a burst fire. It's a pistol. It's a burst fire pistol. As you said before, it's a grease gun. The Fusina rifle is good, but it wastes a lot of ammo, and it cannot be compared to the storm rifle.
Okay.
So yeah, it's basically that. So I love it. That's one thing I agree with the colleagues, and at the same time I agree with the Wardens about the tank thing because the colleagues have light tank destroy. They have mortar tanks. They have the mass production tank because that is the thing that most is not scared them. It scared me. Because when I joined 171, in 71, we were winning. The Warden side was winning. Then I don't know if the mass production tank was unlocked, but they steamrolled us, and I have PTSD about on mass production tanks. You mentioned before that in War 72, like we Wardens won because we rushed them. We rushed them at silk funds and mass production tanks, and yes. That was not. I'm not talking in general. Like I'm not talking in specifics. I'm just saying, like in general, everyone was agreeing on that. We need to take the mass production tanks or tech talks. Focus on the mass production tanks or strategic artillery, infantry. Every single each one of them was discussion, or at least in relation to the mass production tank or the mass production factories.
Yeah.
And that's really one thing that is balancing about this game because most of people are just scared about the mass production thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if the Wardens get their equivalent, or if the mass production tank is a colonial specific thing. I'm not sure what the plans exactly are, but yeah, that was definitely one thing that was very interesting to see play out. So what suggestions would you have in mind for balancing out this supposed gap that you're perceiving between the colonials and the wardens in terms of their asymmetry and their armaments?
Oh yeah, I don't really have an opinion about it because every single time I see Reddit posts or I see wardens and colleagues talking about it, it's a really complicated situation. It's like with the ACG, everyone agrees that it's powerful, but how do you nerf it? Do you nerf its range? Do you nerf its cost because it only costs PMS? Do you range its? How do you do it? And that's the thing that
or do you
everyone
buff other things around it?
Yeah. That's the thing about it. No one can agree with that. They agree with if the weapon is powerful or is OP or whatever, but no one can agree on what to do, and that's a huge problem because if you nerf it to the ground, no one's gonna use it, or no one is like gonna take it or what.
Yeah, it's tough. There's some things where it's like immediately you can tell, like, yeah, no, we should buff this like with a hot fix like right now. Other things, it's like, well, we need a couple wars to figure this out because it's weird, it's different, and it's not weird and different, but rather it's harder to perceive immediately. And sometimes I've noticed this too, and I think some people forget this, but sometimes with changes that people think that is just being sat on, sometimes they are, but sometimes you need to just see if the player base has actually discovered that yet. They've discovered the meta, if they're actually playing it right, quote unquote, or as intended, and sometimes if the player base plays a certain thing or uses a certain asset as unintended, it's up to the developers to decide, should we go with it? Or no, this absolutely has to function this way, and that's a really hard thing to balance. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really good.
So
in general,
the stated reason as to why things feel out of whack from Mark and other developers is, first and foremost, it simply hasn't been fleshed out yet, which is kind of it sucks because there's not much you can do with that information other than wait and see. I know that, and it's really frustrating. I get it, because how are we supposed to have conversations other than, well, okay, I guess we'll just wait and see. But I guess that's that may be a strategy to keep people coming back for more. Unconfirmed if that's truly what it is, but that's certainly what it feels like. I know that our sister program, the 82DK podcast, No Man's Land Live, go subscribe, go follow that channel. No Man's Land Live, the 82DK members there, they talk a lot about how, why would you release things if there's no proper counter out with it yet as intended? And I agree with the sentiment. Maybe things are just that hectic over at Clapfoot, but maybe that's poor planning. I don't know. It's hard to say. I know people can feel the outcome and they can review the outcomes, but how to move forward? It's going to be interesting, particularly now with this kind of unprecedented player population boom. But I don't know. I don't really quite know. It'll be interesting. Also, I think how the colonial. So going specifically back to an asset, like for instance, a lot of talk about the Colonial Light Tank Destroyer (LTD). And how the wardens don't have one of their own. What will the warden equivalent be? And also, here's a key. Here's a key thing to potentially remember. It depends on if this is valid. If people agree with this at all. Do you want something to be on par with it or to equalize it, or should it be on par with the opposing vehicle or opposing weapon? Or should the asymmetry really take root and should really play to the faction's strengths and personalities and just have something completely different altogether? So if the Wardens, when the Wardens get their own light tank destroyer, what will it be? Will it be similar to the Colonial Pelikes, or will it be something? Will it be different in its own sweet way? And how do you balance that? I know that I just said a really big word salad, and I apologize. But did you follow my train of thought?
No, yeah, I agree with you. There has been like in in the Warden hub, the site where most of the wardens are actually organizing and doing stuff. That there has been like a leak or not a leak, like it's a picture of a tank, and most people just say it's a heavy tank destroyer, it's a heavy siege tank, and everyone wanted that tank because it's Warden, but it's the equivalent of it. But nobody knows or nobody can agree what it is. It is it is good against is for sieges, is for destroying all the tanks. It is both. It is neither. Whatever stuff, nobody knows. Nobody can agree with it, and that's a problem. Also, the balancing thing, because I heard in a when I was reading about Reddit, ICG stuff and the balance of the game, I really heard a pretty good post, comment about on the thing. That is that balancing must not like be always pair on pair, on not must always be like completely different from one another, but rather there must be at least a little bit of changes or a little bit of things that differentiate both of them, but at the same time is not too drastically changed. For example, Wardens have more armor and Collies have more HP, or I don't know, Wardens have Collies have more less costly.
You know what? Here's actually part of the problem as to why I can't dedicate to a certain idea when it comes to balancing, is that I don't know what each faction's personality is supposed to be. I only know what happens in the game. Like I know that 82DK runs the way that it runs. I know that Swords of Morrow runs the way that it runs. 22 ACR. Raid, all the other Warden regiments. Like I know how they run. I know their personalities. I have absolutely no idea how the Warden and the Colonials in the lore is supposed to be.
Yeah,
I don't know. And how do you balance and contrast that?
Yeah, that's true. In the lore, it's rather complicated. Like the Collies, what are they supposed to be? Of course, they're based on Americans, but they also have Panzerfaust. They also have Italian tank, the tank head. They have.
I know that in the lore, aesthetically and culturally, the Colonials are kind of based on like Southern Europe and the Mediterranean, and then Russia. So like Southern Europe and Eastern Europe. Whereas the Wardens are based more on Northern Europe, Northwest Europe. So Franco-Germanic, English, Scottish, Welsh, maybe even a little bit of Nordic in there as well. So I know culturally, Wardens are more north and northwest, whereas Colonials are more south and east, not Eastern European. But it's hard to say exactly what that means in terms of gameplay, because it's like, well, the Wardens have more armor, heavier, more elegant kind of look to them, right? But then where does that leave the Colonials? Are they more slapdash? Are they lighter? Are they, mass production tank is kind of the epitome of that in some ways. But then how do you balance it?
And the Wardens are more like craftsmanship, because they have storm rifles. Meanwhile, the Colonials have cheap rifles. The pitch gun could be said like it's a Steiner gun that was given just to a Colonial and supposed to go into the front line and do whatever you wanted with it. Mm-hmm. Or the Fusina rifle. It is a good rifle, but it is a specific rifle. You cannot change its burst. It always gonna shoot 3 bullets, and you're just expected to fire it. And there's some differences, but still there's a lot to cover about it. It's kind of complicated.
Yeah, there's a lot more we could do with that, but I think we're at time. Glass, thank you so much for how long have you been? So you said since the Winter War, since the Winter Update, you've been part of Foxhole. That's fantastic. You've come in at a very exciting time in the game's lifespan, and I think it's only going to get more interesting and bigger and hopefully better as it goes on. But yeah, good luck to you out there. We'll see where it goes. Farewell.
Yeah, thank you. Farewell.
All right, I think it might be our last caller here tonight is Flamingo of the Lox Regiment, the LOX. I actually failed to remember what Lox stands for or what that means precisely, but I think it's colonial. I've actually forgotten. But Flamingo, please remind me, what does Lox stand for or mean?
Yeah, it's a type of smoked fish you put on bagels. We just really like it, so we named our clan after it. And now it's Legion of Zyphos. I think it's a lore name. Yes,
Gotcha.
we're named after.
Legion of Zyphos. That's right. Okay. Yes, that's colonial, right?
Yeah. We're
Okay,
Gullies for
I knew that.
life, gang.
All right. So what'd you have here for us? Hey, Flamingo, what was it that you wanted to hop on board?
Sorry about that. I had to run across the room to shut my door.
You're fine. It's a general Foxhole weirdness in the chat.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, Foxhole's been weird lately. Is that just me, man?
What do you mean? In what ways?
I think the general influx of... I don't know how to phrase this. It's been the sort of general communication.
The amount of French people that have come on board into the French player base has absolutely swelled exponentially because the French streamer, apparently a very prominent French streamer, picked up the game and it just caught on fire in France, apparently, in the French-speaking world. And that's honestly, I think that's awesome. It is kind of a shell shock. It's like a cultural shell shock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird because like there are like 50 low ranks on the front, and like my deal is Foxhole's always been about communication, right? That's why I was so sad about the local chat. Now you can't talk to wardens anymore. I'm so sad about that because like you can't talk shit, but sometimes we just have conversations.
Now you know. Yeah, now you know what it feels like to have been a Chinese player or a Russian player, or now you know what it feels like to not be able to speak English and have played Foxhole for so long. So. How the turntables?
It's so weird because like I'm just like, oh hey man, what you doing? And I'm like, oh wait,
it's a cultural shell shock. No, you're absolutely right that it does feel it can feel weird, but I think going forward. So ideally, right, the game will continue or will attempt to be a single instance of the war or one shard. Now, obviously, right now, as of this recording, the game is split into 2 shards. There are plans to merge the 2 shards together as the population dies down a little bit, or if to continue on. But ideally, it'll be 1 shard. So let's run with that assumption that at some point in the end game or in the development cycle, it will truly dedicate to try and be 1 shard. So I think going forward, this is just something that we've never really seen before. I take that back. In some MMOs, you have seen people use translators and try to communicate across cultural and language barriers and country lines. But I think in Foxhole, it just feels way more urgent. There's an urgency to it. There's a more immediacy to it because I was talking about this with Lek, right? You can log in during even a reasonably popped hour, and there'll be a front line, right? You can kind of pick up and play. In that way, you can go to the front line, find a fight, maybe a couple different fights, and start shooting, right? You can figure things out as you go. Now, how much of a cultural rainbow that front line turns out to be is fascinating to me. I don't know about you, but over the course of my Foxhole career, I have met Russians, Chinese, South Africans, Nigerians, Australians, all over the world. And I think now that there has been a very significant influx of one particular type of language, right, coming into the game. Will we see the existing player base adapt to try and communicate and reach out with this new French influx? And I guess the Wardens, although the Colonials too, but I think I wish we could get 11 ERC, which is a French regiment. I think they're still in the game. They're still playing. They're still fighting in the war.
Oh, they're I see them a lot.
Yeah, I am curious to see from their point of view how it has been since the French have hopped on board in masse. Very interesting because they have an edge there. They know the language.
Yeah, one of the guys I've been interested in seeing is CRG, Colonial French Clan. I'm sure you know.
Yes, I forgot about them. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Yes, there you go.
They have been basically subsumed in a way as the #1 quote unquote colonial French clan in population,
or at least largest
by by population, I believe, by Muter, the MEUTRE, those guys. They're the Streamers Clan, I believe. And they've been like, which is kind of funny, right? Like, they have the fucking lore, they have like everything behind it. They've been playing this game since like 2017. All of a sudden, this big shot streamer comes in and like, hey guys, here's 5 million people.
Yeah, it's it's what an opportunity for CRG and 11 ERC, for the Colonials and the Wardens respectively. What an absolute opportunity. And any other French-speaking regiment, you really have. Gosh, that's so cool. And I hope we see that again when, if there's a Russian influx, a Chinese influx, South American or Spanish-speaking influx. Oh man, that's so cool. You don't see that very often.
I think there was actually a pretty big Chinese influx back when they first joined the game, and I think one thing I think went better because the French, in a way, they have their own infrastructure first. Chinese players didn't really have that when they first came into the game, and to paraphrase wildly, they took quite a bit of shit, and that was a bit of the issue. But I think the good thing about the French guys is they have their own infrastructure first. Like, they aren't just jumping into a game where no one knows who they are or what they do. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, you're French guys? Cool. Yeah, I know you're from CRG. You're cool.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It seemed like the Chinese players had to do a little bit more pioneering, whereas the French had more of a baseline to work with. That's a good point. I don't know. I think a word of advice for all regiments that hope to grow and work with whatever population explosions will happen in the future. I think it should. My advice. We're doing this in the PressCorps right now. Reach out to foreign language people, and people who have English as a second language, who have that asset. Utilize them as best as you can and hold them close, because you never know when there'll be another influx of a player base from some random country, right? Maybe there'll be a Catalonian explosion, and like for some reason, that language will become a hot commodity. Who knows? Who knows? Start looking into people who can speak a foreign language, or just download Duolingo, right? Do that. But
pissed off it didn't take French in high school now. Pick up Spanish. I don't know why.
Yeah, change your course selection based on what's going on in Foxhole. It's like, I've been on this track for 2 years in French, but man, there's a new Italian influx of players. I should switch to them now.
School. I need those credits in Spanish, but man, English sure ain't going so well. I think I need to switch up.
Absolutely. I don't know if that's where you wanted to take it, but that's really cool. Did you have anything else for us, or you wanted to something?
I
Was that the weirdness?
I think something in general. I think here's something weird about Foxhole. I think Foxhole is one of the games that could benefit the most from clarity, yet we often don't have it as much as we do. If you understand what I mean by that.
In what ways specifically?
Okay, let me give you a fat example that's pissing me off since it was added to the game.
Yeah.
You know how you can see the hit points on a tank, but you can't see the armor?
Hit points? No, by hit points you mean like feedback, like visual feedback.
Yeah, if I hit on that hammer and it goes, okay, this is 70% or this is 90%. I have no fucking
you're right. You're right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So,
you don't get that with armor.
Yeah, so that was just like. So you see, there's so much argument among, because LOX, we're a big tank clan, we usually kick in when that happens. So there's so much of like a discord in our Discord over like how exactly, what is the optimal way to play tanks in Foxhole, and like, it sort of come down to like two philosophies. I'm going to call it the Warden philosophy and the Colonial philosophy, just because it's generally what I see.
Okay.
And I'd say the Colonial philosophy is, and I think this is informed by asymmetry mostly, because, Wardens have more armor, bigger guns, Colonials are faster, have more health. And I think the Colonial one is, okay, we're going to sit behind our shit, And if you fuck up, if you do anything even for a second, if you jump out of your tank to repair, we're gonna unga bunga you with 15 Kreneskas from the side and just destroy all your shit. I mean, if you've seen that, I saw a bear video. It was a really good one.
Which one?
It was
Which
where
one?
the wardens did. It was where the wardens did the op in Heartlands,
Yes.
and they brought like 15 tanks over, and they all got smashed because they got hit from behind.
Weren't they all
I was
veteran
there,
tanks too?
Yeah, they were all veteran tank bunch at 11 ERC. And funny thing about that, a lot of them were saying on FOD after, like, oh, we got ulted on or some shit. Yeah, we saw them on Watchtower the whole time. So that was just funny. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, they got. I think that's a example of that going well. I'd say the Warden style, it's just like.
What is the Warden style? Because I would really like to know, because I have my guesses, but it's been tough to tell these past couple wars just because of the whole Falchion approach. Everything's revolving around that.
Yeah, I think the Falchion. Yeah, I think the Wardens need their MPT tank. I don't think it should be a one-side thing. That's just kind of fucked up. But I think the Warden style is, okay, we're gonna hit you continuously for about 24 hours. Then our European clans are gonna log on. They're gonna hit you for another 24 hours, and then we're just gonna keep going. So I think it's like a constant pressure thing, and it's one of those things where, like, it's just like, when you think about the tanks, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like, Falchion, like, okay, sorry, Silverhand, it's very, in and out. It has very good reverse speed, very good forward speed, so you kind of want to be pressing at all times, and has very good armor, so it can tank a lot of shit. So can the Warden Light Tank, for example. Again, its maneuverability is horrible. They can go pretty hard for a light tank. You have their battle tanks back in the day, they had more armor and all that. But it kind of makes sense, like, the playstyles have been informed by asymmetry very directly, whether people like to say it or not. So I think that's sort of interesting, because I think it weirdly lines up with the lore. If you read some of it, it's really weird.
Yeah, there's, I mean, honestly, it's hard to keep up with the lore sometimes because it's so all over the place. I wish there was some more clarity there. But in terms of the how that informs the gameplay, yeah, it's tough. It's hard to tell if it's really consistent, because every time you want to dedicate to something like, oh yeah, the Wardens do this, there's always a counter. So it's like, yeah, the Warden armor is not very mobile overall, but then you have the Scout tank, right? Which is just, which is very maneuverable, very fast, very hard hitting. As an anti-infantry vehicle, it's like, okay, well, I guess that's not quite in line, but sure. You have the mortar tank, which is like, well, this is just a really mobile, more heavily armored mortar half track. Although honestly, I have not used the mortar half track, so I can't really say too much about it.
Mortars are pretty bad now, I'll be honest.
I think that's the vibe that I'm getting from both the game and from other people. I think everyone's just kind of obsessed with the artillery right now. The artillery and the howitzers.
Oh yeah, dude,
which is good.
It's fun, man. Just like trekking. Like, I don't know about you, like, I don't really get the visual feedback from, like, scrapping and stuff, but, like, when you're taking a 120 out of a truck, putting in a core 90s, going back in a truck, shift click, and you just see it going boom, 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 and then it just, like, hits the bunker base, and it's like, oh, cool, I did that.
Yeah. I think, honestly, just more tooltips would be very helpful. Just telling, like, for instance, tell me if I'm wrong, but does the game still not tell you when more than 3 people are building and everything above 3 people is redundant? No, it still doesn't tell you that, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
no,
so stuff like that, where it's like, that's not very intuitive, or rather, it's not easy to decipher. If we didn't know that, would we still be able to figure it out? But that's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. I got my big old quality of life list.
Like, I just call them. I have a whole thing with that. I just call them noob killers, because like they're things you wouldn't learn if you didn't get told it, and they will fuck you over if you don't know it. Like no one. I would never learn to cook a grenade until like a year into the game because nobody told me. Like, you will never learn that if nobody tells you.
Or if you knew that, if you didn't know that from other games.
Yeah, but it's like Minecraft in a way, right? Like, it's super fucking easy to learn Minecraft when you had the Minecraft wiki, everyone alive telling you, yeah, this is how you make a pickaxe. Imagine trying to learn Minecraft and never having played it before. Just trying to figure out what the fuck crafting is. Like, you
Some
put
people would
shit on
enjoy
here
that.
and it works. Yeah, but it'd also be a real pain in the ass, wouldn't it?
I think it's a pain in the ass when there's a whole enemy army fighting you, and you don't have, you don't know how to do some basic functions. But anyway, we can go on that for a while. But yeah, hey Flamingo, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man. Have a great day.
Have a good one. All right, coming up next, I think we're going to close out the show with this call. Here is Tanneth. Tanneth, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. I think you've mentioned been here before, but yeah,
I've
what
been
did
here
you have for us?
before under different names.
Okay.
Names. Yeah. I went by Rufus a while back.
Okay. That sounds right.
I was here for since War 36, and I was here for every single Zero Dark for 4 or 5 wars. Something like that. But I have come to you to ask a very important question, Geoffrey.
Okay.
What is your opinion on the wrench cult?
What is that?
There is a growing number of partisans that are praising a wrench god.
Okay.
And one of the biggest accomplishments so far is that we convinced the 13 to generously donate 1,200 wrenches to our cause.
Okay.
Minus the fact that before this we harassed them and or stole a bunch of their shit.
So,
but that's not the point.
So is there just a giant pile of wrenches sitting in some random stockpile somewhere?
No, they built a shrine, you see.
Using
It was
wrenches.
a pentagram.
Wait,
and it
hold
had
on.
a bunch of symbols over it. I couldn't read them, but basically, they were praising a wrench god, and it was an offering to us.
Okay.
And that is why we stopped bullying the 13th.
So what was the symbol made out of?
It was made out of, well, it's made out of wrenches.
Wrenches, but the box is on the floor.
The boxes on the floor. Well, they were arranged by a 2x3 pattern. All right.
Okay.
And they were all filled with 40 crates of wrenches. All right.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then there were walls surrounding the place, and then they had smaller boxes filled with wrenches in a pentagram formation. It was scary, my man.
Okay.
It was very scary.
You know what would have been interesting is if there was a big pile of 1,200 wrenches, but then you just kind of distribute them in every base. So then over a period of time, people will go, why are there wrenches in every single base? Like there's nothing.
No, you see, that would not be as funny as dumping 1,000 wrenches into abandoned ward and not saying anything.
Oh, okay.
Like, imagine you're a private and you come upon abandoned ward and there's just 1,000 wrenches sitting in a fob.
Gotcha.
It's hilarious, my man.
Who is in charge of this wrench cult?
Well, we don't have a leader, but there's the Tanneth Brigade who are the main followers of the wrench god.
Okay.
The Tanneth Brigade is a bunch of rats, as we'll call ourselves, that are mercenaries. The 13th currently hired us with their offering, which brings Tanneth, a partisan Jesus, apparently. I don't know. Long story short, we are now working for the 13th, and our deal expires in the next war. And I heard something about Red Cross making wrenches, so.
I love how Red Cross is getting less and less Red Cross every day.
No, trust me, I got one of their guys to be a gunner, took off his Red Cross, and committed a war crime.
Well, as long as he took off the Red Cross tags, then sure.
Yeah, no, but he was so, nonchalant about it, oh, yes, I'll commit war crimes. Just instantly drops that medic personality and just goes guns down millions
Red Cross,
of
Red
colonials.
Wrench.
Red Wrench?
The
Is that what
Red
I heard?
Wrench Society.
The Red Wrench Society. But Geoffrey, do you believe in the true wrench god?
I am not religious, but I do think wrenches are useful.
This will be suffice. With Tanneth's time in the 13th, I've grown a cult of my own.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Are you talking in the
But
third
for some
person?
reason, they praise me. It's the stupidest thing ever.
Okay.
One such follower, Fletcher, managed to convince the Foxhole mod developers for the Hoi 4 mod to make me a field marshal.
I feel like that game. I feel like that mod for Hearts of Iron 4 is going to be just one big meme, as opposed to something.
No, it's already becoming a big meme.
As opposed to something that's actually like functional and can be played.
Is it functional? No. Is it just one elaborate shitpost? Yes.
It's such a shame because modding that thing can be a real pain sometimes.
I follow their development. They have a big team now, like 10
That's
people.
funny.
It's real.
If the news, you know, the newspapers that pop up on the Hearts of Iron 4 mod, or just Hearts of Iron 4 in general, if the newspapers don't say PressCorps on them, I'll be very disappointed.
Be very, very disappointed. Actually, funny story about that.
Okay.
There was a proposal, and I talked to K-Bear about this. He said he might actually add it. There was a proposal about both sides losing massive amounts of equipment overnight to a creature known as Tanneth. And they would have it as an event where you can bribe Tanneth with wrenches, and whichever side gives them more wrenches will not have their stuff stolen.
What?
And K-Bear said he might actually add it, so... Also,
Okay.
Comet is here with me. He's a bit late.
Oh, you want me to drag him in?
Yeah, drag him in. A follower...
There you go. Comet.
He is a follower of Tanneth and the Wrench Gods.
You're talking about yourself, right?
Well, I am Tanneth, who has his own cult, and then we have the Wrench cult.
Okay.
Which is what we praise.
Comet, what did you have for us here? We're going to close out the show, the whole show with this.
Oh god, I wasn't expecting this. Oh god.
Can you recite the Wrench Cult Creed?
I haven't been given a copy of the creed yet. No, I can't.
For thou must steal.
Thou must steal.
Yeah, Tanneth, you say it, Comet recite it.
Yeah, alright, let's go.
Alright. For thou must steal.
For thou must steal.
In the name of the Wrench God.
In the name of the Wrench God.
And also we'll be stealing Geoffrey's mic now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Geoffrey, can I have that microphone? We're here to steal it.
We need it for tax purposes, please.
Geoffrey.
The Wrench God has taken him away.
I think Geoffrey left the room.
Geoffrey's gone.
We're still live on the radio, I believe.
This is a true rat hours. Jackson spread propaganda.
Yes. The Tanneth Brigade, the best of the brigade. Is Geoffrey still here? Did we accidentally kill Geoffrey?
Geoffrey? Hello?
Oh, Lord.
The Press video game by Clapfoot. The PressCorps is a non-profit creative collective of artists, reporters, and players from the MMO video game Foxhole by Clapfoot. Our mission is to engross our audience in and amplify the stories of this unique war ecosystem. The PressCorps was founded in early 2018 by former PlanetSide 2 Radio Free Araxis host, Captain-in-Arms. It is a separate community entity and is in no way representative of Clapfoot. For more info, visit the PressCorps Discord through the link below.